You're listening to Mile High Insiders with Nick Kendell and Luke Patterson. Head on over to milehighhuddle.com for all things Broncos. Now, it's time to find out what's going on behind the walls of UC Health Training Center.
A little more proper. Bawana Beast. I got to hear the story about how that came on. So we'll let
John K, the legend, man.
Yeah, John K, John MHH. He's the beast, as Muhammad likes to call him. But what's going on, guys? Hopefully the stream is up and we are running, and we're back. The band is back together. John on the ones and twos, Nick Kendell to my right, Luke Patterson here. What's up, Broncos country? It's Mile High Insiders. We've had some scheduling and some different folks coming in and out of the show, but we are finally back. Appreciate the patience. And Nick, it's been a while, man. I was just talking about that. And you're like, yeah, dude, it's been like 3 weeks. And I'm like, man, a lot's changed in 3 weeks, and a lot stayed the same too. It's weird, man.
Yeah, running in circles, right? It's always comes back to the quarterback. It's going to be another topic here today. It will be as long as it takes, I guess. That's what it is. And I mean, we obviously coming off of a very fun Super Bowl for Broncos country. At least haven't seen a drubbing like that since, unfortunately, the Super Bowl in 2013. But this time it was good to be on the petty end. I'm not above being petty, and seeing Patrick Mahomes run around and throw great footballs, and his offensive line let him down, his receivers let him down. Anytime Tyreek Hill looks bad, 2 thumbs up from this guy. That guy, can't stand him. But speaking of people we can stand, Bob in the house. We got Dylan in the house. Dylan, how you doing? We got Todd. I see it as Todd Ostendorf has been in here for a bit, flipping booch. We got Zebulon Foster, Nazarin Diaz, Broncos fan 13. Sup, man? How you doing? Also, we got sometimes it says just Facebook user, but we got first one in today, Stu McPeak coming in.
Stu.
Man, Stu, always great to see you down in Houston now. Hey, Stu. I know you're a Seattle guy. You were in Seattle. You moved right before I got here.
Ooh.
Now you're in Houston, and I see you have planes in your picture. Just board Deshaun Watson on one of those planes. Send him to Denver. That'd be great. You're in Houston. He's down. Just make it happen.
Well, and I got a question for you, Stu. What is life like down there in Houston right now? Because we were all like down in the dumps over the Denver freaking Broncos. I know Rockies fans, or if you're a baseball fan, are still crying about Nolan Arenado and stuff like that. Can you imagine being in Houston right now? I mean, the Denver Broncos look good compared to the Houston Texans, and that's starting to say something. So, no, get at us, man. I want to know, what's it like down there? Yeah, it's good down here. Yeah, well, it's good to be a Broncos fan because the Texans fans are no more. But yeah, we've got Mundungus in the house. What's going on, buddy? Mundungus Creevy with the $2.99 super. We've got EA Shalom in here. What's going on, Broncos country? Zebulon. Man, we got a big crew. Zebulon. So I guess we're just going to start getting to it, man. This is the Mile High Insiders, everybody. Be sure to get at the Mile High Insiders and at Mile High Huddle Pod. This is where you guys are going to go ahead and find a lot of our interesting content. On Twitter, we're at MHI_football pod, at Mile High Huddle. And before we get going, guys, tonight's show is brought to you by our presenting sponsor, which is Manscaped. Listen up, fellas. 2020 was rough, all right? But 2021, it's a new year, which means it's time to embrace the new year, new me mindset. And what better way than to start cultivating with Manscaped? Manscaped is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, offering precision-engineered tools for your man hide and helping 2 million men around the world keep their male grooming on point. If you let yourself go in 2020, don't worry. Quarantine was rough, Nick, but Manscaped is here. They've got our back. They're here for us to make sure that we can reboot, stay clean, and stay shaved in 2021.
Yeah, man, I know that it is Valentine's Day right around the corner and President's Day, and a lot of people right now are stuck inside. I myself, Seattle's got about a foot of snow in the last 24 hours, and there's a polar vortex going on elsewhere. So that means you're inside for this long 3-day weekend, and people can have a tendency to kind of, let their hygiene go away. I'm inside. Nobody's going to see me. Guys, be better than that. It's Valentine's Day, especially if you have a significant other and you're seeing them. You got to take care of yourself. And we have Manscaped has such great products. My favorite, I know I bring it up every week, but the Crop Mop. I'm a backpacker. I'm a hiker. I love getting outside, and getting something that can refresh my undercarriage is always a plus. Also, they have this really great refined cologne, which I use before work every single day now. I'm working obviously in a vaccine trials, and see some people. It's not all that remote learning, but they have great products. And you got to check out manscaped.com. They really coming out with new stuff every day. I know we just got some replacement blades too. So, hey, just in time for Valentine's Day, we're really excited about that. So it's great, man. Manscaped's got you covered.
Dude, that cologne, man, it's fire. And it's so good. Do I feel old for saying that? It's fire. I feel like somebody, go ahead and age shame me if you want. I'm 30 and I'm saying that and I'm getting there. But dude, I'm really picky with the cologne, and I absolutely love the Manscaped cologne. So guys, come out of quarantine well groomed below the waist with the Lawnmower 3.0. This waterproof and skin-safe trimmer will reduce nicks to your two little buddies. The third-generation trimmer even has a light to illuminate those really hard-to-see, awkward spots. So, Manscaped has also thrown in a shed travel bag to keep all your goodies stored comfortably. I used this at the Senior Bowl. Absolutely loved it. And speaking of comfort, the Manscaped Anti-Chafe Boxer Briefs are also included and are hands down the best underwear you will ever wear. 2020 was so awful, so make sure your boys are refreshed and ready for new beginnings in 2021. Embrace that new year, new me mindset with Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code HUDDLE at manscaped.com. Your family jewels will thank you.
Yeah, guys, that's right. Get 20% off on top of free shipping with the code HUDDLE at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com if you use code HUDDLE. Happy New Year. Happy Valentine's Day to you and hopefully to your boys as well for this Valentine's Day.
Yeah, man, I like it. I've been really impressed with the Manscaped stuff. I absolutely love it. I use it way more than I thought I would. And it's just great, man.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
But speaking of great, something that we all love is that quarterback action and our community. And I see that we've got like a couple hundred folks in here tonight, and we're going to start getting to you guys. So, John, if you want to start letting it rip. But, Nick, I want to just say, dude, it was a crazy Super Bowl. I've never seen anything like that. We didn't even really touch base since the Senior Bowl. Crazy Super Bowl. The rumors are flying. We've got tons to get to, man. I can't wait to get to your thoughts. And speaking of can't wait, Muhammad Badri always can't wait to support us. Appreciate you so much, brother. The Smooth Killer and Braun in the house. So is that LeBron reference to Nick Kendell? That's pretty.
No, he's it's a Game of Thrones. He calls Zach the fire breathing dragon or a Drogon.
Okay.
So I don't know if you watch Game of Thrones, but Braun was always my guy.
Okay.
And I thought he's funny. I mean, just he's there for the good times, and he's looking to take advantage of the situation. And also him and Tyrion, the best. So I don't want to go down too far down the nerddom of Game of Thrones, but very enjoyable and appreciate it.
Yeah, I love it because Muhammad's always stroking that ego that I don't think he should do too much. Yeah, because we're pretty awful as it is, but we appreciate you, Muhammad, so much. Looking good in all that MHH swag. Appreciate you so much, brother.
And don't stroke anything unless you have Manscaped products. Okay, anyway, continuing on, guys. We got Loletta Rabbit in the house. What's up, guys? Can I get a shout out for Denver Broncos for life? Of course you can. Of course you can. Good to see you. Happy Valentine's Day to you as well. I know we got a bunch of people coming in. Do you think Juwan James uses Manscaped? I have no idea. Maybe. He's got enough money he could buy multiple Manscapes. So
he probably, I would expect he did. We know he wasn't playing football, so he's probably doing something at home. Maybe he was trimming up. So I love it. Mundungus, man. Mundungus is talk about smooth killer, man. That's a smooth killer, dude. And our friends over at MHRT, we appreciate you guys so much. Boggs in the house. He's always throwing it down. EA Shalom, what's going on? Just appreciate you guys so much. But Nick, I'm just going to get into the heart of the matter. You gave me some grief. You gave me a little bit of grief because before we hopped on, I'm like, man, a lot's changed, a lot stayed the same. And Deshaun Watson, am I right? And you're like, yeah, welcome to the bandwagon. And I love it, man. I love it because you're right. I've kind of done a pivot the last 3 weeks because I'm thinking, no way, he's not getting traded. Talking to folks down there, they're telling me no way. And then things have just gotten worse and worse and worse. So it looks like he will be moved. Or better and better, depending on your perspective. Right. Better and better for Broncos country, worse and worse for Houston. But yeah, man, I'm on board. I've been on board the last couple of weeks. For me, there is no such thing as too expensive when it comes to Deshaun Watson. Russell Wilson, I'm not biting on that. I'm really not. I think that's just a little bit of frustration, especially getting rid of his OC that he didn't want to get rid of. And, thoughts and prayers to the Schottenheimer family. It's been a tough couple of weeks for them.
Yeah.
So, but Nick, dude, I'm in on Deshaun Watson. I don't know what the probability of it happening is. We know that Houston's not taking calls, right? He's not for sale. Yeah, right. Where are you landing right now after basically you threw down a great article, man. I was giving you mad props at milehighhuddle.com. Be sure to check out Nick Kendell's latest at milehighhuddle.com. And it was an awesome report. Tell us a little bit about some of that breaking news as it pertained to the Broncos and Deshaun Watson yesterday.
So yeah, Tony Pauline, NFL insider, was down in Mobile. We were talking before the show. You said you got to meet him, and we were kind of poking a little fun at the heavy Brooklyn accent. He's definitely a New York guy through and through, and I'm a Midwesterner. We're supposed to have no accent, although we do say milk weird, kind of with an E instead of an I. But anyway, that's beside the point. He was talking about how he heard from some sources down in Mobile that the Broncos were having a hard time establishing and implementing the playbook with Drew Lock to start the season, and then they also had to further simplify it and dumb it down in order to run the offense. And obviously, there are multiple things you can take from that. Was the offense too complicated for Drew Lock? Obviously, it was a weird, abbreviated offseason, a lot of new players, blah, blah, blah. But, it's how much did they have to simplify it? Was it simplified to start, et cetera, et cetera? So I guess it's concerning. It's something that's not new. There's been whispers about this for a while that Drew Lock was struggling with the verbiage and executing the offense, calling out Mike, stuff like that. But it's out there. It's out there now, and it's something that is worth discussing. I don't think it's it's not a nail in the coffin for Drew Lock at all. I still think, he's got a good arm. He's a good athlete. He's young. He's extraordinarily cheap. There's a lot going for him, but there's obviously some concerns. And if he's not getting the offense down, you probably have to think about looking elsewhere.
Shut up, Nick. You're a Drew Lock hater. You and Luke are Drew Lock haters, man. You guys don't get it. They give the kid more time, Nick. I mean, gosh. Yeah, he had a whole offseason that he didn't get to work with Pat Shurmur. Yeah. Dude, the offensive line, they're still working on that. No, dude. Everything you said is right. They're actively trying to move on from Drew Lock. Let's pretend like they're not. Now, it doesn't mean we need to start hating on Drew Lock or anything like that, but, let's call a spade a spade. What Drew Lock has done has actually regressed. And, I'm just going to be honest with you, man. I was there when Tony was talking to some of those sources. So I have a good idea where it was coming from, and it was coming from Denver, Colorado. And it's nothing that you didn't know. It's nothing that I didn't know. It's nothing that Broncos country didn't know. But when you hear it from Tony and stuff like that, dude, Tony is like, when I got to meet him, I'm like, wow, this is cool. And first thing I asked you, did you get to meet Tony? And you're like, yeah, I met him at the Combine. Dude, he is, he's very larger than life in the scouting community, right? Yeah. So it's kind of cool to get some of that validation, because it's not that we're Lock haters. We are telling you in the season, he is literally being spoon-fed the offense, and he's not getting it. Rich Gangarello was spoon-feeding him the offense, and he was getting it. Pat Shurmur, not willing to do that. Pat Shurmur, not willing to show any sort of optimism, energy, or inventiveness with Drew Lock, let alone this entire offense. So if you're Pat Shurmur, you've got no loyalties to Drew Lock. If you're Vic Fangio, you've got no loyalties really to Drew Lock. He's a second-round quarterback, Nick. What's the big deal if he doesn't work out?
Honestly, this was my favorite part of the article that I put out with, obviously you can go check it out on Mile High Huddle. It was Tony Pauline talking about, Drew Lock struggling with the playbook. But my favorite part, for sure, was how he talked about how the Broncos process for selecting Drew Lock was fantastic. And that's something that, you can pull a clip. I've said it on this show multiple times. A lot of people were mocking the Broncos to get Drew Lock 10th overall in that 2019 class, and they traded back twice and were able to get not only Drew Lock, but also Noah Fant, Dalton Reisner, two guys who likely are going to be on this offense for quite some time. Good starters, young up-and-coming starters as well. And the Broncos still got Drew Lock in the second round. So that's something that every single time I would take that process. Now, are the results working out like we'd hoped? Not so far. There's obviously reasons for that, but not so far. But still, that's great. And we got Richie Rich coming in the house. Major storm here, also here in the Pacific Northwest, so we're not alone there. Loving my natural beer cooler. Oh, man, that sounds pretty good. And hey, Nick and Luke. Well, Richie Rich, good to see you. Always great to see you. Yeah. And also something we talked about here we go. John Houston coming in with this group has become the Hate on Lock group.
I'll take it.
I think it's funny because the people who are really adamant Lock supporters have definitely called me a Lock hater, but then there are people who are the Lock sucks at everything no matter what, and they call me a Lock lover. I definitely probably trend a little bit more towards the being hard on Locke. I'm not here for excuse after excuse after excuse. Playing the quarterback position is overcoming adversity. That's just, you have to at some point, and he hasn't done that. But it's kind of like, the moderates eye roll. Not to get too political on here, but if both sides are pointing at you saying you're too one way or the other, you're probably doing something right.
Well, and here's the thing, man. Like, is this the NFL or is this a Boy Scout try hard? Let everyone gets orange slices, dude. Like, go look at it, man. We've said it reportedly, dude. We like Drew. We want it to work out. Neither one of us have any beef with Drew other than he can't win football games. That's it. This isn't personal. I don't know Drew. I've been around him a few times before this whole funny little bug that Carl's daughter likes to talk about came about in this world. He was good, man. He's nice. People seem to like him. He comes from a good family. I say the same thing every week to try to tell y'all we're not hating on Drew. We're just simply trying to understand, what these excuses are. And I appreciate these opinions coming from you guys, because this is one of the best things about talking football and talking Broncos is the ability to disagree. And I love hearing from you guys. Even if you're calling us Drew Lock haters, man, that's fine. I'll own that. But I will also say, I advocated for Drew Lock to be drafted in the first round, man. I was one of those dudes, and I will straight up own that because I liked Drew coming out of Missouri. When I found out that
arm talent and athleticism, that's a kind of guy you take a shot on.
He had a horrible pro day, but I didn't let that stop me. John's loved him. He was, Chucky loved him. John Gruden was calling him every day after the Senior Bowl and stuff like that. So I was getting worried the Raiders were going to take him there in the second round. And I was writing for a whole nother publication. You can go look it up. I said, take Drew, take Dalton Reisner. Felt all vindicated. Well, I feel good about one of them, man, and not so good about the others. But guys, it's a second round quarterback. It's something that, it's not that first round investment. So yeah, if you need to go another direction, that's okay. And guys, Drew's going to be here next year. I think, unless the Texans somehow want him. The spin masters, the folks that love Drew Lock, they'll try to tell you that, oh, no, he wasn't up for grabs, dude. We know he was involved in those talks with the Lions, right, Nick? I mean, there's no denying that.
Yeah. So I want to get to this one by Jonathan E. as well. Let's say Watson does come to Denver. Then what? Well, I think number one, anytime you're building a team, first important question you got to ask is, do I have the guy under center? Because I know that a lot of people living in the moment where Patrick Mahomes looked human in that Super Bowl. Granted, they moved like 4 guys in the offensive line and there was backups and backups in there. Like they moved their guard to right tackle. They moved their right tackle to left tackle. It was just terrible. So some people are like, oh, see, defenses do win championships. At some point the overall roster does win, but let's look no farther than the AFC and NFC championship games this year. Who are the quarterbacks? Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, MVP, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes. Those are 4 of the best 6 quarterbacks in the NFL. So yes, in the end, Tampa Bay did win because they had a better roster than the Chiefs, a healthier roster than the Chiefs too. That matters. Just ask the 2013 Broncos if health matters. You maybe don't need the best quarterback ever to win the Super Bowl, but you need a dude to get a ticket to the dance. It's that simple. It's have or have not. So you got Watson, 10 to 15 years. Quarterback is settled. You lose some draft picks. You lose some guys. That's okay. It's going to happen. It stinks. But that's the cost of getting in that level of quarterback. After that, you figure it out. I mean, does that mean the defense takes a step back? Yes, probably. But look what Vic Fangio is dealing with this year in the secondary and all the injuries. You still keep a lot of the offensive core, and quarterback is a position that's supposed to raise all boats. If they are good enough quarterback, they raise the play around them. People talk about, I see a lot of comments in here about Broncos fixing the offensive line. You look at the offensive line right now versus what the Broncos had with Peyton Manning. It is so much more talented. It is so much more talented than what Peyton Manning had. It didn't matter. It didn't matter because Peyton Manning was so good he could overcome those issues. So obviously, again, there's a point where it's too much. Look at the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. But still, you have to be a quarterback that raises the play of those around you. And Lockett's not done that. Can he? I don't know, but he hasn't yet.
Yeah, and that's just it, man. Well, and and that's great, and it's awesome passion, and that's why having this conversation is so important. But here's where it bothers me, and I get irritated, is when people say that Drew hasn't had every opportunity. I mean, they catered an entire draft to him. What else do you guys want? I'm not saying everything's easy. There's nothing easy out there, as Peyton Manning would say, right, in the sound clip. But good Lord. I mean, we're seeing a lot of other quarterbacks do a whole lot more with a whole hell of a lot less. And it bothers you when you see Justin Herbert coming in and starting to smash on some of these folks, just like Trevor Sendel's telling us, guys, be sure to smash those like buttons. If you're on YouTube, give us a subscription. Subscribe to our content, give us some of those comments. I know Nick and I are really interested in starting to pull those out and actually recognizing some of those comments on air, because if you guys are taking the time to leave us those reviews that we really appreciate, we want to take the time to recognize you guys and improve and give you a shout out.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
So as we kind of roll along, Nick, Deshaun Watson and the Broncos, Kareem Jackson's doing his best, right? We know that. What do you make of that? Because, I was talking with some cats on Denver radio last night, and the one thing that we were talking about is you don't hear anything about Vic Fangio, what his opinion is on the matter. Obviously, he can't be talking to Deshaun Watson or talking about another player, but you would hear whispers, right? I mean, we're talking about George Paton calling Justin Simmons. You never heard about George Paton and Drew Lock really talking. I mean, May said a hello. What do you make about Vic Fangio and Deshaun Watson? How could Deshaun Watson look at this coaching staff? I mean, I'm operating on the assumption that Vic Fangio is probably gone in a year.
I think Vic Fangio's, this is where we really do differ. I think there's obviously game clock issues with Vic Fangio, but as far as the defense and accountability, it does seem like Vic is pushing the correct direction. I mean, the Broncos played the third hardest schedule this year. The defense, or the type of offenses they played, it was the defensively third hardest schedule in the league. And they were down to just bodies out there at the cornerback position. And if there's any position where if it falls off talent-wise and you can be exposed, it's cornerback. I mean, at some point, those guys just have to cover. You can't really scheme that much to cover them up because they're going to be put on an island. And when you're down to a third-string, late third-round pick rookie and a UDFA that was picked up 2 weeks prior, you're going to have issues. So I don't have issues with Vic Fangio. I think there's still hope for him. Now, if this season completely falls apart, that's, we're going to have that conversation. But I really think that Vic Fangio actually did make the most of his roster this year. I mean, losing Von Miller, the cornerback situation, the issues, the lack of athleticism at linebacker, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we could go on. And the defense still performed admirably. So, it will be interesting to see. I hope, and also something of note here, how many teams right now are grabbing this Vic Fangio defense right now, right? It's the flavor of the month, flavor of the year for the defense. So many teams want this because they saw it slowed down Mahomes. It's given Russell Wilson fits. Russell Wilson looked terrible against this Vic Fangio style defense. So this is what teams want to run right now. They do.
I agree.
So
I agree with everything you say there, because you're talking about Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator. I heard you. I heard what you said about time management, man, because you recognize that, and that's a problem. But here's my problem with Vic. He could give a flying flip about the offense, about the entire team, in my opinion. I mean, I think he cares, but he's so locked into that defense that it's paralysis through analysis, I think, sometimes with Vic. Vic's going to know more about football than I'll ever pretend to know in a million lifetimes. That's just the fact of the matter. I wonder about him connecting with players. I wonder about, when you see Shelby Harris shoving him, and I don't know. This team's a mess. When you don't have a culture, and Vic Fangio, I don't think he's a natural leader. I don't think that's really who he is. He's not the type of guy like Wade Phillips either, where he's going to come up and put his arm around your shoulder and, kind of not coddle you, but be your boy. That's not Vic. I don't really have a good grasp on who this guy is, Nick. It's such a different personality than we've ever seen at a head coaching position.
He's a football guy. He's old school. He comes in, you're supposed to do your job, and that's that. And this is another reason I'm really gung-ho about getting Deshaun Watson. You're talking about, you're talking la-di-da about the defense. He's dealt with, issues on this defense this year, personnel-wise. Bloated older contracts and guys not playing, and that they fell off because of that. That's why you go get Deshaun Watson. The offense then is really just set, and you can let Vic Fangio kind of breathe and focus on the defense then. You don't have to worry about Drew Lock and the development and does he fit with Shermer, blah, 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 when you have a Deshaun Watson. Obviously, you can't completely not pay attention because you're the head coach, but you feel pretty darn good with Deshaun Watson and this offensive infrastructure in place. And I mean, let's get to another part of this Tony Pauline article. They're talking about, whether it be Drew Lock or not. We'll see. Right now, it does sound like Drew Lock will be the starter again next year. Probably. He'd be the odds-on favorite. But he's going to have to compete. It's not a guarantee. He's going to have to go against somebody that they're going to bring in. They're going to clear some cap space to sign a veteran quarterback. And the one that Tony Pauline brought up multiple times in his interview was Mitchell Trubisky. say what you will, Mitchell Trubisky is not a great quarterback, especially when you put him in the light of Mahomes and Watson. But he could come in and beat Drew Lock out. And we saw it could happen. It could happen,
Nick. That really hurts because I believe you. I believe you, and that bothers me because I don't like Mitchell Trubisky at all, dude. And I can't really argue with you. What ammo does Drew Lock give me to argue with you there? I mean, what can I say, Nick? Flashes?
Yeah.
I mean, he's shown flashes, right? If I'm not going to give you excuses, he's shown flashes. It's just, man, it's so tough. And I would rather roll with Drew than some journeyman quarterback, but absolutely. I do want to see him push. That doesn't mean I think they should just give it to him. You start running down these quarterbacks on who could push Drew Lock, right? John Buwanabes likes to talk about Marcus Mariota. I think Marcus Mariota could absolutely beat Drew Lock right now. What say you on Marcus Mariota? Let's kind of go through a list here.
I love Mariota. I would definitely take a shot at Mariota. He signed with the Raiders. So if he's not cut, he's not coming here because I don't see the Raiders trading a quarterback to Denver.
They do weird things, man, like sign Antonio Brown and then cut him and then do all kinds of crazy. You're right. Like, stop making sense. And we can keep talking about the quarterbacks, but John's in my ear saying, look, guys, we've got all these folks. We've got 300, almost 400 people here saying we want to get in on you. We want to call you Lock haters. We want to talk some junk about Lock as well. And
also, but there's 300 people here, almost 400. Only 22 likes, hearts, sad react probably because we were talking about Lock there. Let's get some more in there. Last week we got to 30 right at the end. Let's get to 40 this week. But we got Tyler Randall coming in here. Good to see you, Tyler. Always great for you to join us. Can't stay tonight, so I just wanted to pop in and show some love. Tyler,
thank you.
We love you for that. Happy Valentine's Day to you, buddy. Keep up the great work, guys. Broncos country, Denver Broncos for life. State of being and freezing in Oklahoma. Well, Tyler, you got to come on here sometime and let's talk some Oklahoma prospects because I was doing some work last night and Ronnie Perkins, that boy is fun.
Okay.
I am a fan of Ronnie Perkins. I am in. Also Trey Brown. They actually, they play no defense in the Big 12. The Sooners got some defensive guys I'm interested in.
John likes Trey Brown a lot too. I know John was texting me when I was at the Senior Bowl about Trey. So yeah,
Fangio uses more press from the slot than he does on the boundary.
Yeah.
So Trey Brown being a slot guy with thick, good tackler. I mean,
Oklahoma, man. Oklahoma, dude. They put out some products, man. I mean, they put out some products, Tyler. So we really appreciate that, buddy. And thank you. I know you couldn't stay, but thank you so much for your donation. Joshua Shadow coming in, dude. I hope that's your last name because that's so cool. Or just a nickname, Shadow. I like it. 2020 kind of stung after what Drew Lock did in 2019. Josh, you're making too much sense, man. Are you sure you're on the right show? Because I think you're putting it up exactly right, man. I mean, dude, this was weird. This isn't what we were expecting. We were coming out here, at least I was, thinking, hey, man, they're going to make a run. We got speed in the draft. Garrett Bowles, he's hopefully going to be fixed. He proved to be fixed. And then injuries, like you said, and bizarre things started happening. So how would you react to that?
I also think he was a better fit in that Scangarello offensive system. Pat Shermer puts those guys in shotgun. There's less play action. There's more full field reads. It's much more reliant on timing and accuracy than that Shanahan style West Coast offense, more under center, more play action, more half field reads. I know Locke came out of this spread offense shotgun, but he doesn't have the footwork for it. He doesn't have the accuracy for it. I don't know if he has the ability to make the reads like that. So I think honestly, like Scangarello's fired again. I know people are like, oh, keep Scangarello. He's fired again. He's out there. If you wanted him, you could get him. He might be signed by now, but he's been off 2 teams in 2 years here now. But as far as the actual type of scheme running, Drew Lock might be a better fit elsewhere.
Who would have thought, right? Because I was at least calling for Rich Scangarello's job because I was so tired of seeing tight end jet sweeps and all these weird little cutesy gadget plays. And then I was pumped. I was covering the Shrine Bowl and get the news all of a sudden Pat Shermer's coming to Denver. I'm thinking like you, Nick. I'm thinking exactly like you. My very first article, dude, I've been with MHH for a year now. My very first article was talking about why Drew Lock will not have a sophomore slump in Pat Shermer's offense. Boy, was I wrong, Nick. And
was that pre-pandemic though?
Dude, that was, man. It was just, it was right.
Every team had to deal with it.
I was at the University of Wyoming and then University of Colorado Pro Days when everything hit. And then everything changed, man. So I had so much belief in not necessarily the man, but the system. And we talk about it, dude. It's average at best, in the 20s, 17th when the Minneapolis miracle happened. And that's something I wrote about on milehighhuddle.com because Philip Lindsay, man, just went scorched earth on Pat Shurmur. You think we're hard on Pat Shurmur? Try listening to the Colorado Kid. But yeah, man, it hasn't worked. And Pat Shurmur has no give or bend when it comes to Drew Lock or any of
just
it.
The type of quarterbacks that he wants to run a system are like early 2000 style offense. Like you're looking for the Case Keenums, Nick Foles, Sam Bradford post injuries of the world. Like that's not an offense I want to run. Now, granted, there are some offense guys out there, but like I just don't know. Like Jared Goff would be a good fit in this offense, right? Like in the pocket, making the reads quickly, blah blah blah. I want to run an offense where your quarterback's playmaking ability and arm talent can be flashed. Like I don't want to run an offense where like, oh, the guy who fits you best is Mac Jones. No slight to Mac Jones, but like that's not what's winning in the NFL right now, right? Like unless you have the all-time quarterback in like Tom Brady, which God, talk about anomaly on top of anomaly on top of anomaly. But I don't know. I have issues with both of it. I know Pat Shurmur's Vic's guy, and he's probably going to go down with the ship, assuming that if Pat Shurmur struggles this year enough to get fired, it probably means Vic Fangio's not around either. But I don't like the scheme, and I want one where you can actually showcase arm talent and athleticism and et cetera. And I don't think, Pat Shurmur, it's not all his fault because Drew Lock has struggled, but also I don't think Pat Shurmur is doing Drew Lock very many favors as well.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
No, and Pat Shurmur's coming from where? The Andy Reid tree, right? The Philadelphia Eagles, former tight end coach Pat Shurmur and John Houston, excuse me. I always want to say Huston. It's like George Paton, right? Can't call him Patton. Yeah. Got to call him by his real name, Peyton. So apologize there, John, but appreciate you so much. And he's weighing in on the Pat Shurmur conversation. And I think I saw somebody in the chat too call him Pat Charmer, which was hilarious because the guy will make you fall asleep on his press conferences every Thursday. But John coming in shows you that Pat Shurmur is a bad coach because he cannot adapt. He's stubborn. He won't adapt to his players' strengths. Say we get a new quarterback, just going to be the same issue as Drew Lock with Pat Shurmur. Nick, okay, hear me out here. We get Deshaun Watson. We had a super chat earlier saying, what's the first thing you do? You throw your hands in the air, you curse, you cry, you get happy, you laugh, you go start pre-ordering jerseys, you knock a couple cold pops back, you celebrate. Okay, that's done. Deshaun Watson's in Denver. Hey, Deshaun, what kind of offense do you like to run? Not the Pat Shurmur offense. Go get me some other guy. I want, Coach X. Are the Broncos willing to move on from Pat Shurmur if they get Deshaun Watson? Deshaun Watson doesn't want to play under Pat Shurmur's system.
I mean, go get me Byron Leftwich, baby. What he did this year, marrying Bruce Arians' scheme to Tom Brady's scheme. You talk about a guy where two styles that do not fit. Bruce Arians wants to push the ball deep, and Tom Brady wants those little yak weapons, kind of get the ball out quick. To be able to marry that and make it what it looked like this year. Granted,
wouldn't happen.
Great players make great coaches, right? That's what they say. I've never known a Hall of Fame coach without Hall of Fame players. But still, I mean, Byron Leftwich, what he was able to do this year, I mean, fabulous. So hats off to him. But yeah, it's something we have to talk about. It's probably going to be, obviously, the Peyton coming into Denver changes the formula a little bit, but everything's pointing towards it's going to be much of the same next year as it was last year, personnel-wise, coaching-wise, and whatever comes of that is what it is, and then you have more information to make a decision from there. But, it'll be interesting. I guess that's the long and short of it. And something I wanted to get to you as well, talking about Watson and the quarterback position, blah, blah, blah. Everybody's talking about Peyton looking to trade back this year. There's been more and more discussion about Peyton really pushing for a trade back. That's kind of what he wants to do from 9 overall. Now, granted, Penny Sewell falls, if Caleb Farley falls, maybe nobody wants to trade up. You never know until that moment when somebody's bringing the phone and saying, we got a deal here. But there's also some conversation that this Deshaun Watson stuff, it's not going to be handled before the draft. So trading back 2021 from 9 overall backwards, adding future capital, adding more picks this year, bolstering the bottom of that roster where you don't need as many picks in the future because you already are filling out those guys with young, cost-controlled players. That just gives you more ammo to go get Deshaun Watson. So I know everybody's like, oh, trade back, then you can reevaluate next year and then go for a quarterback in 2022 in the 2022 draft. I think that could easily also be a strategy to give yourself more chips and to put yourself in better position to go get Deshaun Watson. Because once the draft happens, teams like the Jets, teams like the Dolphins, their front running ability and capital, you have obviously 2 picks this year for both of them, second and third overall pick, poof, gone. If the Broncos can be the team with more capital in 2022, 2023 after a trade down, baby, we already know he's on his list. We already know that Denver's a spot for him. He's interested.
Right.
There it is. I mean, that's what you have to start thinking right now. So it would be I think it would be the Broncos to do that. Yeah,
that's worth. I'm glad you asked that, man. That's really worth bringing up because I see a lot of y'all poo-pooing it, man. But look, I don't have a problem with it, dude. I'm a draft guy. You're a draft guy. And like, I don't necessarily follow the draft value charts and stuff that are out there, but it makes me start thinking, who's George Paton eyeing, in the draft that he's anticipating maybe there be a slip or a fall. Everyone's got a mock draft and nobody cares. How many mocks are the Broncos running? What kinds of things are they running into and hearing? Stuff like that. It makes you wonder. But for me, man, I guess what I'll say about it is if you're George Paton, you've got to make a definitive decision on whether or not you're going to make a run at Deshaun Watson. And you need to do it today because I believe you, Nick, and I agree with you. The Houston Texans are going to make this drag out until the draft. And I think it probably happens at the draft unless they get an absolute haul that they cannot refuse. And I'm saying out on Twitter, I feel like the Godfather, make them an offer they can't refuse. I don't care what it is, dude. Drive them, Jerry Jeudy, like whatever. The price tag is not too big. But the reason I say they need to make that decision today is because if you do not, you're possibly looking at free agency a whole nother way. Guys, Deshaun Watson, maybe, but what do we want to look at in the other quarterback market? What do we want to look at in terms of the draft? All other things, man. So it's hard to get a good grasp on this just because it's a weird dynamic in Houston. I'm starting to think on the Houston side of things. I'm like, okay, so Deshaun Watson and the Texans aren't talking right now. JJ Watt just got released. Deshaun's got to be feeling a little more upset about that, saying, why am I still here? When is Deshaun Watson gonna start talking to the Texans, start letting them know, like, hey, the reports are out here, the teams I like, I'm not playing for y'all, or I'm just not going to show up. All these things, man, have yet to happen. And March 18th, I think, is the beginning of the new calendar year. It's just bizarre, man, because we've never seen anything like this. It feels like the NBA. Yeah. I didn't realize we're covering the NBA now, where these players have
quarterbacks taking power, man. They're starting to figure it out. They know that if you don't have me, you're screwed. It's a team game still, but it's not like baseball where like the best player in baseball has never even won a playoff series, Mike Trout. It's a have or have not lead at the quarterback position. You need guys around him. It's not like the NBA where if you have LeBron with you and me or, my dog, Airbud over here, you can make the playoffs, but that's right. Still, it's a quarterback league.
But it's weird though too, because it didn't start with quarterbacks. It started with Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell and Jamal Adams, and now it's finally hitting the quarterbacks. And you've got Aaron Rodgers who's pissed off, right? And you got Russell Wilson pissed off. I don't know that those guys are ever going to be dealt, and if they did, then good Lord. But I've never seen anything like this, Nick. And speaking of not seeing anything like it, dude, Willie, I've been getting to talk to Willie all week, man. Willie's a good dude. I really appreciate Willie and his takes. Willie coming in the shop, Willie with a $5 super. Deshaun Watson sure elevated the Houston Texans this year. I'm not opposed to going out and getting him, but to pretend the dysfunction isn't here like it is there, ha ha. Yeah, man. Willie comes up with some more logic, man. Making too much sense, Willie. What are you doing? What are you doing, Hans? What are you doing? Nick, this team does not have a culture, but Deshaun Watson gets here. A culture is here, baby, and it becomes a culture of winning. I don't want to sound like Al Davis of just win, baby, but Deshaun Watson walks into the building. There's a whole new tone. There's a whole new energy. I don't know how he trains. Nobody goes about things the way Peyton did. But if Deshaun Watson walks into that building, how do you think that affects the energy, the tone? Is a culture developed? How would you respond to Willie's super chat on that one, Nick?
People buying in. I mean, obviously Deshaun Watson didn't play great this year, or he did play great this year. The Texans did not play great this year. But that's, again, it's coming back to a team thing. And you want to talk about dysfunction. I mean, I think it's a whole different level of dysfunction there. We were talking earlier, I kind of wanted to get to this point at the very beginning, talking about what's it like to be a Houston fan right now. And it makes me think it's ever since the 2015 Super Bowl, it's been kind of a downward trend for the Broncos many years. And it's like, oh, is this rock bottom now? Is this rock bottom now? Look over to the Houston Texans. It can get worse. it can get so much worse, Broncos country. But still, I think, you get Watson here, you have a chance. It still takes a team, but it's the first most important question to answer. Do I have a good enough guy to get me a ticket to the dance? And Watson is definitely good enough to get you a ticket to the dance.
Sean Pendergrass was on with some of my buddies on the Denver airwaves this week, and he covers the Houston Texans out of ESPN. And he was basically saying, look, man, it's coming down to who's going to flinch first, Deshaun Watson or the Houston Texans. He thinks Deshaun Watson's ultimately going to get dealt, probably closer to draft day, kind of like you're projecting, I'm projecting. But Jack Easterby, man, what a mess. The ownership there, what a mess. He noted something that was really interesting. He said Jack Easterby hasn't spoken publicly really in about 161 days. They have a count going on, just all this bizarreness. He says a couple good comments about the good things, but won't publicly come out. Things are just really, really bizarre there. Man, Deshaun Watson, he wants out. He's looking at Denver. He's got to be a little confused, though, when he's looking at these teams because, Nick, Broncos would have to give up a little bit more than just draft picks. So what could be left after Deshaun Watson ultimately ends up in Denver was another one of our super chats that we were getting to. And I think Jerry Jeudy.
I have something for that. Yeah, this is an interesting point. People keep saying you'll totally gut this team if you move on, if you trade for Deshaun Watson. Mm-hmm. First off, this Broncos, say what you will about John Elway's tenure, especially the post-Super Bowl, but the last 3 drafts have been pretty good. You're starting to really get a solid young nucleus and foundation here to bring in that quarterback to get them over the hump. And they do need that quarterback to push them to that next level. That could be luck. It might not be. But the biggest thing I think is with this team right now, they're ready to go. And you can bring in a quarterback, and let's say you bring in Deshaun Watson. How much roster turnover are you going to have? You open up a window for 10 to 15 years to figure out the stuff around the quarterback. The Broncos, think about how long ago Super Bowl 50 was, right? Just 5 years ago, and there's only 2 players left from that Super Bowl team in Von Miller and Brandon McManus. And Von Miller might be gone soon. So like people say this team is going to be completely gutted. I don't think you have an appreciation for the scope that you get once you bring in a 25-year-old top 5 quarterback. You have 10 to 15 years of reshuffling the deck to figure it out. 10 to 15 years. And the Broncos roster is almost completely changed in 5 years. So I obviously you're going to lose draft picks. You're going to lose some talented players, and that takes you a step back. But it's worth it to get that quarterback.
You're damn right it's worth it. You're damn right it's worth it, Nick. There is not a price tag in the world that is too expensive for Deshaun Watson. He is elite. He's elite, man. And I just let's open up the books. Kenneth Booker. Yeah. Kenneth Booker,
first.
You know what, Kenneth Booker, how dare you coming in there calling us lock haters? He's one of our own now. He's one of our esteemed colleagues. Kenneth Booker, welcome. Kenneth, I will put you on blast. We got to get you on the podcast, brother. Congratulations, guys. Please. Go check out some of Kenneth Booker's work. Kenneth Booker was on the Huddle Up Pod earlier this week, did a fantastic job. Kenneth Booker's now writing for Mile High Huddle, just showing you guys how deep the MHH crew goes, how deep the connection is with our MHH community. And Kenneth came up, man, the same way a lot of some of these cats came up. I know Bawana the same way. Involved in the community, shows some of his own talents. And Kenneth, dude, I appreciate you so much, but I'm not a Drew Lock hater, dude. I'm not a Drew Lock apologist. I just call it how I see it, baby. And Drew Lock, it's not the answer. I'm not drinking that orange Kool-Aid, man. I can't do it.
I'm not even going to go that far. And I've been very outspoken that Drew Lock has been struggling. But I'm not going to say Drew Lock isn't the answer. I'm just saying what we've seen so far and where he lines up historically, given all other data points, he's exceedingly unlikely to be the answer. Now, things can happen. The future's not written yet. That's the biggest thing. And Drew Lock has the arm talent. He has the athleticism. I'm looking for the quarterback position. It can happen. But I'm a statistician. I don't see it happening. I'm not going to bet on it. It'd be like going in to the gas station and playing the Powerball and being like, well, if I win, I can feed my family this week. You don't want to play that game. You don't want to be in that position. So we got Madungus coming in here. Creevy. He said, Fitzmagic. Honestly, Fitzmagic, this is going to sound maybe blasphemous to some people, but Drew Lock and Fitzmagic have a lot of similarities. They really do. And it's obviously Fitzmagic is a smart guy, but
Does Drew Lock have like a whole herd of kids I don't know about, or what are you talking about, Nick? Explain yourself, sir. Explain yourself.
Fitzmagic is a lot of fun, but he throws up a lot of WTF YOLO balls down the field in windows that do not exist. And sometimes he trusts his arm too much. And that is something that I see from Drew Lock countless times. He's putting the ball where he should not be. And sometimes it results in great plays, but more often than not, the ball's going the other way. I mean, Drew Lock was second this year in turnovers for the quarterback position, despite missing two and a half weeks. So it's just, it's a concern.
Nick,
and this is Chris.
Nick, you just wrote an article about Drew Lock and spoon-fed the offense, brother. And I don't have to remind you, a draft expert. Where did Ryan Fitzpatrick go to school?
Yeah, he went to Harvard, but Trevor Siemian went to Northwestern.
But those dudes can read. Brett Rippon can read deep. I mean, good
I'm
Lord.
just talking stylistically. He puts the ball in harm's way, which can result in some great throws. I mean, we saw that one versus the Raiders where his head was turned around sideways and he threw it up. Didn't make any sense. You get that with Drew Lock. That's what's really fun about Drew Lock. Do you want that in a starting quarterback? I mean, there's a reason Fitzpatrick has bounced around the league for as many years as he had. He's not the dude. He's a dude.
And before we get to Chris, dude, we were talking about something that was really funny, and I'm looking at Bwana Beast in our private chat here, just a little behind the scenes. So I want to build up maybe this Drew Lock hate. If you guys feel like we're hating on Drew Lock, let us know, and let us know why Drew Lock should be considered different. Let us know why you feel good about Drew Lock. I don't want to hear excuses. I want to hear what you're seeing, and I want to give me optimism, because I flip-flop my opinion. I change my opinion. I admit when I'm wrong. I love to say when I'm right. That's just kind of the way it is. But no, man, I love to hear this. I love the disagreement. But Nick, I was talking to you and John, man. If we can get a lot of Drew Lock hate, we have one quarterback that I think would make everyone's head explode. And we haven't talked about it. And I don't know, man. I think we should let it marinate for just a little bit, because no one's talked about it. And I could see everyone getting so irritated right away.
Bring back Peyton. No, I was kidding. I think the Trubisky one would tick off some people even more so. So, I mean, that's kind of, we already saw people in the chat once that was mentioned. It's like, no, not Trubisky. But speaking of the opposite of no, yes, David Kilgore coming in here. I just wanted to join. I just joined the pod, guys. Well, thank you very much, David. And we always appreciate seeing you rocking that swag as well. You guys can find that. We're rocking these hats as well. I've seen a couple of comments today about how nice these hats look. Which
you guys
is
like those? Those are
great.
Those are dope. Yeah, my buddy Adam designed those. Appreciate you, Adam. And David, dude, I want to just say, dude, those Gators, I love them, man. I was wearing one down in Mobile. Really comfortable. Get yourself an MHH Gator.
Yes. So he said he just joined the pod, but wanted to know if you guys think that we will go after Watt. So I think the Broncos will probably make a call on Watt. But from what I have heard, the Broncos and Peyton are neck deep in Justin Simmons / Shelby Harris contract negotiations right now. They're focusing on those guys first. So I think that's much more likely than bringing back Watt. Obviously, Watt's kind of an interesting fit because you had Shelby Harris playing that like 4 technique, 3, sometimes 1 when they go down to sub packages. Watt's kind of that edge rusher, but also a 5 technique, can kind of do a little bit of hybrid stuff there. But I got to admit, I would be really shocked if Watt didn't end up in Green Bay, home state, played for Wisconsin, or Pittsburgh, playing with his brothers. I've seen some Buffalo Bills push as well, which would be fun, but I would think Pittsburgh and Green Bay would be the 2 that I would bet on right now. Denver, though, I mean, obviously you have the Bill Kolar connection there. Coached him, had some of his best years with Bill Kolar. So that's a big one. And also, if you bring in Watt, I mean, that could be another thing where like, hey, we already got Kareem Jackson talking in one ear for Deshaun Watson. Having Watt in the other might not hurt. But I just don't see the contract stuff lining up for the Broncos getting Watt. But, man, that would be fun.
I love it. And John, if you could leave that up for just a second. No, I absolutely love the question. Where do we think JJ Watt's going to land? Maybe the Broncos. I don't see it happening. I think George Paton makes the call, you bet, because you got to know that Deshaun Watson's talking to JJ Watt at least, right? They're not planning probably on going somewhere. If they end up somewhere, great. But
I mean, JJ Watt was almost in tears at the end of the year. Yeah. So you're talking to Deshaun Watson like, dude, we failed you. You had such a good season. There's no way you should have been out of the playoffs. And he's like just almost in tears talking to Deshaun Watson. Yeah, also, they're trying to demonize. Some people demonizing Deshaun Watson. Talk to his teammates. They love the kid. Don't listen to the oil salesman.
And look what he does in the community, too. It's something I talked about on air in the Denver airwaves last night, man. He's a good dude. Deshaun Watson's a very good dude. I would absolutely love to have him here in Denver and see some of the work that he could do. But here's something else that I would challenge. I love Green Bay. That was my first thought. Kansas City was more of like just imagine how terrified we would be if that happened. I don't think it's going to happen. But, Nick, the Baltimore Ravens need defensive line help. So much so that, it was Calais Campbell and Derek Wolfe each on one leg out there at a time last year. So maybe, Lamar Jackson, Baltimore Ravens, you got Wink Martindale there. Maybe they want to pay a defensive line. I don't know, man. It's tough. I know. I think I'm going to be crazy here and just be really crazy. I think the odds the Broncos land Deshaun Watson via a trade are more probable and realistic than landing J.J. Watt in free agency.
I think Vegas agrees with you too. I think Vegas has the Broncos much higher odds for landing Watson. So we have Mike, coming in here. Hopefully I pronounced your name correctly, Mike. Let us know in the comments if I didn't, because I really want to get you guys' name right. If you're going to take the time to come in here and leave a comment, I better take the time to say your name right. So here we come in, Mike. Locke had no reps to learn a new complicated system, hurt his throwing shoulder, lost his only vet receiver, and his main weapons were Fant and 2 rookies who also struggled. Run it back if no Watson. I mean, I think there's a good chance that they run it back, but running it back could vary person to person on what you think that looks like. Running it back, there's no way the Broncos are going to go with Drew Lock and Jeff Driscoll. That's unacceptable. They're not going to do that again. You talked, and you said it earlier, hammer, meet, nail. The Broncos setting it up for Drew Lock. That's what Elway did last offseason. That's what everything was about last offseason. Elway knew that this lock pick had to work. Otherwise, he was probably being shown the door. And, there was up and downs here, but going out, signing the best interior offensive lineman on the market, going out, getting 2 top wide receivers, going out, getting Albert Okwuegbunam, Drew Lock's best weapon there, going out and getting an improved, perception-wise, improved offensive coordinator. All this
Cushenberry,
stuff.
new center.
Yes. It's just all these things. And then, again, really hammering home, your backup options were Jeff Driscoll and Brett Rippon. Like, this was the offseason where they're like, you know what, Drew Lock, we're going to, it's isolating the variable. Mm-hmm. And I'm not to be a total nerd here, but you set up that offensive infrastructure so that way, if the quarterback fails, it's not because the offensive line let him down or the weapons let him down. It comes down to isolating that variable of how good that quarterback is and whether or not they get it done. Isolating the variable.
I agree, man. And, we want Drew to succeed, but he's got to get rid of the ball just for God's sakes, get rid of the ball quicker. Yeah, protect the ball.
That's my biggest thing.
I think Drew Lock is athletic. I don't think he's mobile. I think that's a problem. And I think that's a distinction that we need to start realizing as people in the scouting community, because I think it varies, Nick. And, Drew gets banged up. I certainly appreciate the, injuries that he sustained, but I think he's tough. I think he cares. I don't think that he can't do it. I just don't know how mature he is. I just don't know. He doesn't strike me as an alpha dog. And don't you want your alpha to be a quarterback? I mean, your quarterback should be an alpha. I don't know, man. I don't know if Drew has that edge. I don't know if he's got the killer instinct. He might have swag, right? He might have swag, and I don't know how much swag you have when you're throwing interceptions and losing football games, but
that's my biggest thing.
It's just it's tough. It's tough. And I'm not trying to sound, like Colin Cowherd and, don't wear your hat backwards or anything like that. But it's tough, man. It's tough with Drew. And I think Drew's probably upset. I hope he channels that anger and gets upset and changes it into something different. But before we get going too much longer, we're coming up on our last segment here. Larry Vaughn's weighing in. I get to chat with Larry every once in a while. Hope you're doing well, brother. Larry with a $5 super. Drew Lock is the quarterback next year. Then the offensive guys need to be in tackle drills in practice. I'm not sold on Drew Lock and definitely not buying in. I'm like, meh, fair. I think that's fair, Larry, because here we are taking 2 different extremes, right? I mean, on one extreme, people are calling us Drew Lock haters, and we're certainly not. But we are very critical of his game. On the other hand, you've got everybody else on the right, the left, whatever side you want to say. No pun intended. But it's one of those things where it's you love him, you hate him, and Larry's right here in the middle. And I think
that's the place to be, man.
Usually, like you said earlier, Nick, to cut the show off here, man, right in the beginning, you said the truth kind of lies somewhere in the middle, instead of these 2 extremes. I think Larry's onto something here, man. I mean, we're not sold on him, but we don't hate him either.
Oh, sorry, I was laughing. Bring back Chad Kelly. Just playing. Yeah, please don't. We do not need that. I don't need to be anybody getting assaulted by a vacuum hose. Oh man, God, that guy just ticks me off.
I love it.
But yeah, Larry, thank you so much for the comment. I am kind of meh as well, but I mean, Drew. I'm going to make a case for Drew Lock right now because everybody's calling me a Drew hater, and there is a case to be made for Drew Lock that I believe in. That I believe in my heart of hearts, but it's mainly because it's the flexibility Drew Lock gives you. Like the Broncos were interested in Matt Stafford, and depending on who you listen to and who you think is telling the truth or whatever, there's different varying degrees of how interested they were or what they offered. The fact of the matter is we know that the Broncos were interested and they tried to get Stafford on this team to improve the quarterback room. Yep. We can all agree on that. So they didn't do that. The cost was too much. You still have a quarterback here. You have flexibility. It's not like a team like, let's say the Jets go in and get a quarterback 2 overall this year. They're married to that guy. Broncos rolling with Locke this year, it just means that you're moving that around. And Locke it's not like I'll take Drew Locke over Trevor Siemian every time. Don't get me wrong. Drew Locke has more tools. I think Siemian probably the higher floor. He can run the offense better, but Siemian's a third string quarterback now on his fourth team. Locke has a better future than that. I think I would rather have Locke than that. But Locke is cheap. He's under cost control. There's still upside there. You're not paying much for the room at all, which is a huge benefit considering how quickly quarterbacks can get paid in this league and how if you're paying a mediocre guy big money, you're really in trouble. So you have that flexibility. You can kick that can if you want to. It's not ideal, but we're talking a big scope here. And if, let's say, Locke fails next year, you're not married to him. You're not screwed. So that's good. And if he works out, hell yeah. Praise whatever football gods you want to do. I mean, that's what you want. But we'll see. It's just the flexibility the Broncos have because of Locke.
You want to talk about getting screwed, dude? Bill O'Brien knows about some shady deals and things like that. And Mundungus coming in. Mundungus, dude, I don't know if you do comedy, man. I've asked that a lot because you're just an absolute killer, man. I feel like you're one of those, you should be doing the roasts and stuff like that, man, because you're a funny cat, dude. Mundungus Creevy coming in with another $4.99.
You got to have a good sense of humor if you're a Nebraska Cornhuskers fan.
And it's for knowledge, baby. And it's for knowledge. Kind of wish Bill O'Brien was still with the Houston Texans. Look, guys, we could get Deshaun Watson for a peanut butter and freaking jelly sandwich. Of course, Mundungus, a good football mind, referring to, just giving away Hopkins to the Cardinals. And we saw the difference that made with Kyler Murray. Mundungus coming in with another $4.99 super. Drew Lock stats. Hate Drew Lock. Yeah, man, Nick and I, we work with numbers all the time as analysts and in our other careers as well. But the thing is, context, right? Context. Certainly not every interception was on Drew Lock, but a lot of them were. A lot of the fumbles, a lot of the tape, and things like that. And you can't get away from some of that stuff. And I hope Drew Lock proves me wrong, man. In a way, I almost hope he proves me right because I initially wanted him and loved him so much. And now I'm just like, I don't think he's the answer. Let's keep him around and see what happens. But there's so many strong feelings on Drew, on the quarterback. And it's just, I love to hear everybody's perspective, man, because you get a lot of new opinions that are floated in here. And I love it, man.
Yeah, and we got In the Shop with Willie. A pretty sick car there, Willie. I kind of want to see that sucker, maybe a live action photo going on. Watch Drew go somewhere else and ball out. I mean, I think Drew Lock he's probably a top 30, 25 quarterback right now, and maybe a team like the 49ers where Jimmy Garoppolo's had injuries multiple times now, and that 49ers wide zone system with a quarterback with a little bit more athleticism than Jimmy Garoppolo has and a simplified quarterback scheme. I mean, look what they've maximized out of CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins there. Like, Drew Lock could probably do okay in that San Francisco scheme. I do think that there is a capped ceiling where you can't just go that much farther, but still, I think, it's a possible. And if Drew Lock does go somewhere else, I like Drew Lock. We were talking about the Missouri Pro Day earlier. I drove down from Iowa to Missouri to go watch the Missouri Pro Day, to go chat with Drew Lock and see what made him tick. Also talk with Daniel Jeremiah, Todd McShay, et cetera. Just, what's going on down here. And, Drew Lock, I think he's a genuine kid. And I think maybe there is the ability to handle adversity. And when things aren't going well, when the chips are down, how does he respond to that? I know that there is a very unfortunate video after that Chargers win this year where he was yelling not great things at fans. And that was unfortunate. But that's how does he handle adversity? You got to be able to bet on yourself and have that internal fortitude brought to you by Manscaped to when the chips are down. That's the biggest thing. I just don't know if he has that. But again, not everybody does. Not everybody is built like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. It's just it's different.
It is different. That's something Daniel Jeremiah, dude, I'm so jealous, man. Daniel, I have yet to meet DJ, man. And I love DJ's work. He's one of my favorites. I got to meet Matt Miller.
Much positive energy. It's just like he radiates positive energy.
Oh, dude. And he's one of the best football minds out there, man. I know you love him as well. Super jealous there. I got to talk to Matt Miller and meet Matt Miller and knock a few cold pops back at the Senior Bowl. And that dude, another great football mind. That's why we're the Mile High Insiders, folks. We're not just pretending, man. We're putting in this work. And when you put in the work and other people recognize that the work is being put in, you start to get a little bit of the whispers. You start to hear about what things are going on around the league. And that's why you guys have tuned in to MHI tonight. David coming in as we start to wrap up the show here with a final few minutes. $4.99 super. Appreciate you, David Kilgore. If Dak Prescott gets into free agency or is available via trade, then who do you think the Broncos should take? Dak Prescott or Deshaun Watson? Very good question, David. I like it a lot. Nick, Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott. They both have elite talents. I think one's an elite quarterback. The other is certainly on the rise. Where you at?
I think the biggest thing here is, would you rather have the better quarterback in Deshaun Watson that is going to cost way more as far as resources, capital, players, and picks? Or would you rather pay Dak Prescott the largest contract in NFL history? Because that's what he's going to get. But then you get to keep all that other capital. So I honestly do not know, given the state of the world right now and the financial situation surrounding the Denver Broncos, if the team has the cash on hand to pay Dak Prescott, because those guarantees are all paid immediately. You have to be able to put that money into there's a financial term that's just totally escaping me right now. Somebody will probably say it in the question here, but in a vacuum, I will take Watson. However, if you can get Dak without giving up those picks, I mean, I think Dak day one with this team and how it's set up right now, you have a team that could go to the AFC Championship game. That's what a difference maker quarterback makes too. I mean, it's, again, if you don't have the quarterback, you're spinning your wheels. But we got John in the background telling us to kick it up. In a vacuum, though, Watson's the obvious answer. Mr. Boggins coming in here. Mr. Boggins, hope you're enjoying the snow up here as well.
It's going to be tough.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully I'm not lagging a little bit. Mr. Boggins, what do you think of Tim Jenkins' college quarterback rankings? Wilson, Lawrence, Jones, Field, Lance. I think it kind of blows my mind that Lawrence isn't number one, but there are some questions there. How does he handle pressure? Can he go through multiple reads, et cetera, et cetera? So that's a question there. After Lawrence, though, I think it really comes down to your scheme. Are you running a Lamar Jackson scheme where the quarterback's going to be asked to run more and have field reads, or the Cam Newton scheme? Then maybe you like Trey Lance or Justin Fields more. Are you running one where it's the Shermer offense with the Case Keenum at quarterback? Maybe you like Mac Jones more. Not for me. That's not my style. But, I think a lot of it comes down to what type of scheme you are running. So it's just a general statement. What do you think? Do you have any thoughts on this? I mean, Mac Jones does not have enough tools for me to be in on him in the first round. I would rather get Davis Mills day 2. Am I lagging? All right. Well, I don't know what's going on right now. I think that maybe Luke had lost some sound. Oh, okay. Yeah, Luke is. What's going on with Luke?
Sorry.
Okay. Well, I'll take over from here. Yeah, I can hear you. There's a little bit of lag. I can run it out here. We got Paul coming in. Paul, good to see you. Thank you so much for getting us on the Twitter machine. I always love chatting with you. I'm also here because you always talk with you like my pictures of my boy Summit. Can the Texans rehire Bill O'Brien long enough to trade Watson to us for Locke and Patrick? That's the dream, man. That is the dream. We really hope so. Sorry about that awkward silence there. Sometimes I thought it was me as well. That was with the sound issues going on there. But we will see. We got Medungus coming back in here as well. But in all seriousness, it's not that I hate Drew Lock. I mean, nobody should hate Drew Lock unless he's still your girlfriend or something like that. Then we can talk. But no reason to hate Drew Lock. It's just, do you see him being the guy that gets you over the Patrick Mahomes hump? Valid question. He says, I just believe that his ceiling has dropped from franchise quarterback to a really good backup, and that's not what we need. I think Drew Lock is he's a borderline starter. He's a guy I think is going to kick around the league for the next 5 to 10 years, and he's going to get some chances because you see the arm talent. You see the athleticism. I mean, it's there. He's already outplayed many second-round picks at quarterback, but I just don't know if he's that guy where it's like he's going to be a top 10 quarterback, top 15 quarterback every other year. And that's the bare minimum you need to compete in the AFC West, the minimum.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think, when you're on the cusp of, the lower 20s to higher in the 30s, there's definitely an issue where he's starting to look as a backup. And I think, especially in the first games, if he is to get those first games, it will be quite telling where he will rank going on in the future, if he's a top tier backup or a low tier starter.
Well, and how does he show up to training camp? I mean, that's something I think that's going to be important too. What's your mentality when Drew Lock shows up to OTAs first, right, John? I mean, right, Drew, when we, Nick, I almost called you Drew, dude, just because Drew Lock is on my mind. Maybe Drew Lock wants to be my Valentine. I don't know the way I'm talking about him. Everybody calling me a hater, but it's one of those things, man, where it's like, What's your mentality when you step into the building? You've got half the locker room, maybe even 3/4 of the locker room, believing that you're not the guy. The team's trying to actively get rid of you. We're going to have another free agent quarterback in here. Does Drew Lock come at this thing and attack it seriously? Because I'm sick of seeing the smiles. I'm sick of seeing the jokes. Drew Lock should not be happy right now. He should be really upset. He should be very serious. He should be locked in. I just don't know if that's his personality. I know he's professional. I just don't know if it's his personality to be that alpha dog and truly put his hands on this team and say, look, I'm the guy. This is my team. Here's why.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's just you kind of wonder about the maturity. It's not a question of want or whatever. It's like some guys, when they are the guy, so it is what it is. Also, I kind of want to point this one out. We have B. Taylor in the house laughing at if you put Dak on this team, the Broncos could get to the AFC Championship game. Laughing. B, what's your logo there? Are we talking about making fun of people getting far in the playoffs? I'm sorry to kick you while you're down, and I think the Lions did a good job kicking those resources down the line. Like that's exactly what they have to do when they've been incompetent and just terrible for the last few years. But I don't know if you're in a position to really be laughing too hard. But you definitely are in a position to be crying with those reacts. So,
speaking of crying, man, I got some horrible takes. I need to be watching myself on some of that Drew stuff, dude. I appreciate you, Manny. Thank you for tuning in to MHI, brother. It means a lot that you're coming in on your Saturday night with us and we roll along. John, stay in here, man. I love having you on. John, Nick, I'm going to post this to you guys. Joshua Shadow, I love that. My guy, Jay Shadow with a $5 super. John, I'm going to kick this to you. And then Nick, I want your response. Iowa. Actually, let's start with Nick. Iowa. Yeah. You're from Iowa. I also call Iowa home. No wonder why you talk so much love about the Hawks. Nick hates the Iowa Hawkeyes. He freaking hates them so much. He never brings them up. He's just
Iowa State University.
The Cyclones. He's your Cyclones guy, right? Dude.
No, really. Opposite. You're giving me a hard time. The Cyclones, man. I despise them. I was so disappointed Iowa didn't get to play them this year because Iowa State's really good now. And it used to be years where Iowa shouldn't even schedule Iowa State because if they lose that game, everybody's like, well, Iowa State sucks. They should never have played them anyway. It was just a lose-lose. Now Iowa State's good. 1 year they're great, and we didn't get to play them.
It's weird.
I don't know. And Matt Campbell, great coach. They keep getting him in extensions, which bums me out because he should get an NFL shot and get the hell out of Iowa so Iowa can take all the best players in Iowa again. But still hasn't beaten the Hawks. Still has not beaten the Hawks. So, yeah, man, that's shout out to you, Shadow, in there in Iowa. Hopefully you are at East Coast or East Side Iowa as well, on the away from Ames or Lames. You know how you find Ames in Iowa? You drive from Iowa City.
How's that?
You drive west until you smell it, and north until you step in it.
I kind of feel like we could even go Greeley with that one, man, because I kind of feel like I hear where you're at. Chris coming in here saying, hey, man, it's nice to see John every once in a while. Yeah, and dude, I got to work with John last week. Nick, I know you got to work with Chad a bit before. It's cool whenever we can get John on, so maybe we'll have John on for a few segments here and there in the future. But guys,
hey, look at John handling adversity when things kind of get off the rails here. John, next quarterback of the Denver Broncos. Step on up, man. That's what we need. We need somebody to come in when the chips are down and things aren't going right. Got to bail us out.
How's your dancing, John? Can you dance?
Oh, my dancing is impeccable.
Oh, his dancing's impeccable. Just like his producing, just like Nick Kendell and his writing and his analysis and his love of running backs. Guys, man, it's flown by, dude. It's been, the band is back together, so it's fitting that John's able to hop on because I know I missed you guys. We've got such a great show. We've had a few hundred people in here tonight. It's just been awesome, dude. We got to see where this quarterback carousel takes us, guys. Give me some final words on the way out, John. Where you at right now as we head into Valentine's Day weekend, and where your quarterback head is at for the Denver Broncos?
My quarterback head is spinning. It's going to keep changing with every single day, it feels like. So for me, I'm just going to continue with this spinning and dance and keep watching tomorrow, and then keep along with this ride. What about you?
Yeah, man, I'm in on Deshaun Watson. I want to roll there. I don't want some has-been Andy Dalton. I don't need any of that in my life. Aaron Lynch with the 5 super coming in last minute. Forget that Iowa was even a place. Thanks for the reminder. I needed that. Scope Buffs. Yeah, man, something's brewing up there in Boulder, man. Carl Durrell. don't talk to me about not being able to change a culture in 1 year, because what that man has done in the wake of Midnight Mel, who might be, I think, one of the most hated people in Colorado, Boulder especially, right? If you're a buff, you can't stand that guy. But Nick, what are some of your parting thoughts on the way out as we finalize our quarterback talk for the evening?
If you have a shot at Deshaun Watson, you have to shoot that shot. And at some point, you maybe get outbid, or, it comes to a point where you can't feasibly trade your entire draft for 3 years on top of Chubb, on top of Draymond Jones, on top of an offensive piece. You just can't do it at some point. But if you can do it, that's great. If not, it's not the worst that you roll with Drew Lock in 2021 with a veteran hedge. It's just you're hedging your bets. You're giving yourself flexibility and options going forward. And you got to think big picture. It's not a make or break 2021 season for the Denver Broncos winning the Super Bowl or making the playoffs or not. Obviously, we want it, and it is for Vic Fangio probably. But you got to be able to think about it as a rolling continuum and give yourself options, because you don't want to get married to the wrong guy. The Broncos aren't married to Drew Lock, but they're very close to being an eligible bachelor again. They're making some calls, and not being married to a guy means that your options are open, and that means good things could happen. So that's my parting thoughts. And we got Madungus coming in here, Iowa, where the students are trying to get outside by pushing the door open, only to realize it's a pull door. Oh, man, I just remember when we were trying to add Nebraska to the Big Ten, we had to change our academic standards to let them in. But, other than that, it's whatever.
Can I get one more thing for the Buffs? I love Severini. I just have to say that I think he's a great offensive mind. I think some team eventually has to pick him up to be a young coach, a young offensive coordinator, something like that. Just love the guy. Just had to say that real quick.
Well, and I'm gonna say something that you've told me in private, dude. You've gotten to talk to the guy, right? And you've got I mispronounced Severini, right? I mispronounced
Severini, if I'm saying that correctly.
Okay, You've gotten to talk to the guy. You've got to rap football with him. So, and you're very humble, and you're not gonna brag about yourself. But I'm gonna brag for you, and that's why we like to throw you on the show as well. Nick, brother, it's been so nice to be back with you. John, I appreciate all your help. And Nick, where can our folks find our podcast?
Yeah, guys, obviously you can find us on Twitter at MHI_football pod. Also find all of us on Twitter at Nick Kendell MHH, that's KENDELL, at John K MHH, that's JONKAY MHH, and at Luke Patterson LP. Luke, you think you're better than us without that MHH tag at the end? What's going on? You got to represent. If you're not going to stand up for yourself, then who is, right? That's what they always say. But guys, make sure you go on over to milehighhuddle.com where all of our written content is at. I know that, again, I had a piece that just recently came out. Luke's got some stuff down the line. So obviously check in there, check the community board as well. Biggest thing you can do for us, guys, and really I implore you, if you've enjoyed the show tonight, or you like the back and forth, you like contributing in the chat, agree, disagree, everybody's welcome. I really enjoy it when people tell me I'm wrong, because I want to have that discussion. I am an academic at heart. And if there's something that I'm saying that is incorrect, let's hash it out, baby. I'm not going to attack you for that. So let's hash it out. I'm all about that. If you want to do that, though, and make sure that we can continue to do this show on YouTube, guys, like, subscribe, and share. Click that little bell notification so when we go live, you can come and join us and talk some more football. Also on Facebook, guys, hit like, subscribe, and share as well. Those thumbs up, I think we're at 4. Hey, I said I wanted 40 today, and we did it. Hell yeah. We didn't set the bar too high, but that's great. I know we have more on Facebook as well, but that's great. We really appreciate it. And also follow us at Mile High Huddle on Twitter. And become a supporter. Go to facebook.com/Mile High Huddle. And also, I'm really just going to jump back and forth here. So it's really hard for Bwana to put the right banners on, which is really fun. Just keeping him on his toes. Again, handling the adversity. We really appreciate you guys. And man, you guys are the best. I always say that. And I really don't want to get the label of being a Drew hater. I also don't want to get the label of being a Drew lover, or a Lock lover, I guess is the better way. I prefer Drew doubter. I think that's a better PR game for me. Also, we got RC coming in posting pie. I don't even know what that's about, but happy Saturday night. I have some pie in the fridge. I'm actually going to go get right now. Thank you for the reminder.
How about could we do a lock luster instead of lackluster? Could we do lockluster? Maybe team lockluster.
That's
since he's a lackluster. We're kind of meh, kind of like what Willie was telling us earlier. Can we? Because I'm willing to embrace the Drew Lock hate thing actually. Because I'm to a point, Nick, where I'm done with excuses. I'm done with the narratives. I'm done with XYZ banana. I'm done with all of the craziness, dude. I'm just ready for winning football. So I guess I'm a Drew Lock hater, man. I'm going to embrace it because I want winning football. Drew Lock is not a winning quarterback, and that is about it. So
yeah, my concern was with Chase here. He said that Lock luster, I get it, but it also sounds like you're lusting after Lock, and He is a good looking dude. He's got a good smile. But that's not what your Manscaped's for, man. You don't want to be lusting after anything like that. Druthers. That is a good one.
Druthers. Oh man, Tim, dude, for our next pod, we gotta open it up for some of these names because I saw Rich in here earlier, and this might be my final thing. Rich is like, dude, Drew Lock needs to build a beard, kind of like Samson had that strength, right? A great beard. I don't know if Drew can. Drew can't grow a beard. He's too good looking, right?
I mean, if he could grow like a nice mustache. Like Tim Selleck or Burt Reynolds, like I'm back in. He could throw it to the other team every single time.
We got Lockaroos, Lock and Load. Oh man, you guys are absolute killers. Yeah, y'all know where to find us at Mile High Huddle, at Nick Kendell MHH, at John K MHH. I'm Luke Patterson, saying always believe in that Mile High magic and go Broncos.